can affirm faith, work, and vocation. Silence is its own affirmation. Failure to publicly affirm vocations outside of ministry lends itself to a misunderstanding of ministry and vocation. This presentation provides church leaders with 5 ways to include vocation into the issues of salvation, evangelism, and basic personal discipleship, Bible reading, prayer, fellowship, etc. The goal is that parishioners would begin to understand that what and how they spend 40, 60, or 80 hours a week matters to Christ and to his church. And so the first thing that we can do as church leaders is we can watch our language. We need to understand that in Christ, we are all priests, which means that our pastoral ministry or church leadership calling is not higher than any other vocation out there. That means that we are all believers. We are all priests. So we are priests who maybe happen to be stay-at-home moms, or we are priests who happen to be doctors, or we are priests who happen to be bank tellers, or we are priests who happen to be educators, and so on and so on. First, we are all priests in Christ. The second thing we can do as church leaders is we can pray for people in various vocations. We can pray publicly on like a Sunday morning or in leadership training or volunteer training. Pray for vocations. Beginning of school is a great time to pray for teachers. Also, it's a great time to pray for students, as that is many people's, young people's, their occupation is being a student. I also pray privately. Maybe there's someone that's a police officer going through a rough time. Or maybe there's someone else, a business owner that and their business is struggling. Then it's time to pray for them. Go to the Father on their behalf. Also understand that we are all called, and we are called to work as in working for the Lord. So that means any vocation we may find ourselves, any vocation anyone in Christ, anyone finds himself doing, we're all called to do it as Christ is our boss, as Christ is our foreman, as Christ is our employer. And so we do his will, we carry out his way in whatever we do. Third thing, commission people for ministry. Just as you would commission short-term mission trips or missionaries or people going to be pastors, commission different vocations. Periodically during the year, you can have times where you call up a certain vocation and commission them, those practitioners of that vocation. Also understand that in Christ, we are uniquely individual. So we uniquely have our titles and our offices. But we are uniquely one, which means our status, our titles and offices that we hold may change, but our status as being one body in Christ, baptized in Christ, that never changes. Also, spend time with workers. I think it's hard to admit, but it's easy for pastors to forget the plight of their parishioners. Maybe forget the plight of what it is to work in an office 40, 60, or 80 hours. What it is for a father or a mother to have to travel so much to put food on the table and provide a good education for their family. The toll that can take. And so spending time with them, interviewing workers, understanding what's it like, what's going on, what's the day-to-day, but also get them thinking, how does your faith interact with your work? How are you being a priest in your workplace? Also, maybe there's some people, some construction workers or some dirty job people that it'd be great people for you just for all of us, especially me as a pastor, to work alongside, get our hands dirty again, understand, reconnect with what it means to, and just get our hands dirty. Not in a mess of people's lives, but dirty in actual dirt. Lastly, we can stress that you can have a ministry at work. As church leaders, as pastors, we can have times, we can plan out every year or once a year or whenever to have a whole teaching series about faith in the workplace. And understand that God ministers through the work of his people. So in the work of his priesthood, people, nation, one body, their work, their vocation, he ministers through their work. Just as real estate agents, they are answers to people's prayer. People praying, finding a buyer for the house, or people praying for the right house to buy. And so in your vocation, where you work, remember, you're an answer to prayer.